Today we're going to be taking a look at the Toughfan Pro 140mm class fan. I do apologize, this picture is for the 120mm one, but they look near on identical. Let's get right into the graphs and the data. Is the case simulation test. This is going to be looked at in a couple key different ways, but for you, the viewer, the most important is what size case do you actually plan on buying? Because as air travels down a tube or down your case, it tends to expand out, and what you want is for that air to be as concentrated as possible for as long as possible. It indicates a better overall design in the fan. So again, it's what size case do you actually plan on buying or do you own? So you have the 6-inch mark is represented by a small form factor case that still has a front to back airflow design, and you're using an air cooler inside of it. The 6-inch mark is also representative of short throw distances, meaning if you put fans in the bottom of your case and it blows up to into your GPU, that 6-inch mark would be very applicable to you. The 9-inch mark is represented by compact towers. I think of Dell Optiplexes in that 9-inch mark, but it's also be represented by think a case that could hold a standard ATX motherboard and GPU of the same length as that motherboard, but nothing bigger. Then you have the 11-inch mark, which is you're represented by standard mid-tower cases, so think Meshify 2C, Corsair 5000 series, 550D. Did I say Meshify 2C? But that's all the 11-inch mark. And then we have the 14.5-inch mark, which is represented by like the Fractal Design Torrent and other big towers. So depending on what size case you are actually interested in buying is the data point you would actually care most about. And do note, this distance isn't the length of the computer case. It is the distance from the back of the front fans to the rough position of the CPU socket. And the reason that this airspeed matters is it improves the efficiency of the fan that leads into your CPU air cooler. If you're water cooling your CPU and you got front mounted radiator, you still want high quality airflow, airspeed getting to the back of your computer case to get to that GPU to supply it with plenty of air to keep its thermals in check. And of course, with any computer case, you do want a good high quality exhaust fan, but the airflow doesn't matter. You just want to get that air out. So you'd be looking more at noise performance and probably CFM. So now we're going to compare the fans against my control fan. The control fan is just a good baseline to go, hey, this fan is good, or hey, this fan is bad. The control fan is based 3 parts A12X25 to 1 part A14. 2 fans I consider good in their respective categories. However, as I've done more 140mm class fans, the A14 seems to be more and more middle of the pack. It's also an older blade design, so I may be updating that in the future. I'll have to decide if, and I guess I'd like your thoughts on that. But fans that meet its performance are considered good. Fans that exceed its performance are considered very good. So we got the Toughfan14 and we got the Toughfan14 Pro, and the Pro is excellent. And mind, they're equal performance at the 6-inch mark, but as we get into bigger and bigger cases, it is just showing its stuff. Whatever Fantex did to the Pro that's different than the regular 14, it paid off. And when we're taking a look at things at 100% pitot and fan signal, it just gets better. Both fans outperform my control fan, which is kind of no surprise. The control fan is limited in many ways, being a blended data set, but the Toughfan14 only spins at 2000 RPM. It's a little bit slower than what my control fan is simulated to generate, but it's substantially quieter than the original Toughfan, while moving so much more air, relatively speaking. So it's impressive. I'm very impressed. Like, I'm actually swapping out one of my Fractal Design Torrent PC fans in the bottom. One of the 140s actually is rattling. I'm full on using 2 of these in my computer case now. That's how impressed with it I am. Comparing it against other fans. So this pink line is the Toughfan14 Pro. So again, if you're looking at it, the 6-inch mark, not that impressive. There are other fans that are actually better than it, so it's fine. But as the cases get bigger, it is just blowing other fans out of the water. Matter of fact, the only other fan other than the Silent Wings 4 Pro 140 that's beating it at 14.5 inches, so big cases, is the Mobius 140p. And the Mobius doesn't compete with it at the 11-inch mark, and only competes with it at shorter distances like the 6 and 9. So, I mean, I don't know what to say. I'm excited about this fan because of its performance. And you can see where it ranks with the other fans at 100%. So RPM matters. The A14 3000 RPM fan blows everybody else out of the water, as you can see right there. But if you're looking at regular speed fans, the green line is the Silent Wings 4 Pro 140. Again, maximum RPM, so it's spinning at 2,400 RPM. It is losing to the Toughfan 14 Pro at 2,000 RPM. The Lightwings 140 is losing to this fan. The regular Toughfan 14 right here in this dark blue is losing to this fan. So it is this show going. So noise performance. So the data point was taken at 9 inches. The 9-inch mark is so we can directly compare 120s and 140s, so it's all consistent. But the 9-inch mark was chosen because I need to maintain an airspeed over 0.5 meters per second. And of course this fan does, because my anemometer can't take readings below 0.3 meters per second. So that's why the 9-inch mark was chosen, because on average most fans have higher than 0.5 meters per second at the 9-inch mark. And while its noise performance overall isn't the best, it is the best on average, in my opinion. Because the Silent Wings 4 Pro 140 has these joggles where there's a harmonic frequency within the fan, or you may call it a resonance, where it gets really loud, and then when you get past it, it goes back to being quiet again. That's something that Be Quiet could improve within that fan. And then it would be a top pick for me in this size category. We have the Mobius 140p kind of competing along with it, but it cycles up, drops back, gets close to it, comes up again, drops back again. The original Toughfan 14, sitting right here, just doesn't have the same sort of top-end performance, and you can see that it leveled out quite a bit more. So whatever they did to the Toughfan 14 Pro, it's paid off. I'm going to take a look at performance through my CPU air cooler. My cooler is the Noctua U12A. Yes, it is a 120mm class cooler. You could convert into CFM by knowing the surface area of the cooler. And I know you wouldn't use this particular fan with this cooler, but it gives us a relative performance mark to compare other fans against. So the left side here is RPM versus airspeed. So this is a blade efficiency graph. It is how effective is this blade design at shoving air through the cooler. And we do see that the Toughfan 14 Pro is, once again, taking names and kicking ass. The Toughfan regular 14 is still doing pretty well. It's outperforming my control fan. So both of them are good, but one is better. Next, on the right side, we're taking out noise versus airspeed. Airspeed is vertical, noise is horizontal. Every 10 decibels is a doubling in noise volume. So 5 to 15. 15 is twice as loud as 5. 10 to 20, again, 20 is twice as loud as 5, or 10. So the red line, we see that the Toughfan 14 is underperforming compared to my control fan, while the Toughfan 14 Pro is better than my control fan. So again, these improvements are very impressive. And noise normalized results. And the Toughfan 14 Pro is the best fan I've tested in the 140mm class category. Just hands down, the best, beating out everything else. I recently tested the AL140 version 2 from Unifan, or lian-li Unifan I should say, and it was very impressive, but boom, the Toughfan 14 Pro just crushed it. prior to this testing, the SL Infinity was the top ranked one. So again, just proving its stuff. At 100% PWM fan signaling, it is still doing remarkably well. It's in the second position, and it's doing it at really quite acceptable noise values. Like 30 decibels, let's move down to find something else that's 30 decibels that's louder. The Hurricane is near that. The NFP14S Redux is at just about the same decibel reading. So it's moving a lot of air for its given noise value. So if this fan will fit in your case, I might be calling this a top pick, like going forward. And as for its noise results, well, they speak for themselves. None of the other fans even come close to touching it. Well, I should say the original Toughfan14 at one data point comes close to touching it, and it's lower than it, and then it's lower than it. So, I mean, it's no contest. It's set a new standard in fan, and I haven't tested any longevity testing. I want to add longevity testing because I've heard reports about Fantex or Thermaltake not honoring warranty or having reliability issues. I am using this in my computer case now, so I will be able to do some sort of longevity testing on it, but hopefully you won't hear from me about it for quite some time. So I hope as this channel grows, I'll be able to add longevity testing into my test suite. Test is CFM testing. It is my least favorite. Allow me to explain why. So CFM testing, got a fan, you got a tube. The tube is the same diameter as the fan. The air travels down the tube. Whether or not the fan design shoots air off to the side or has a nice focused airflow, the air all travels down the tube. But if the fan has a tendency to shoot air off to the side, you're going to have larger boundary layers because the air is basically hitting the wall and then being pushed along, and then it's having a larger and larger slow zone. So in general, in a CFM type test, again, CFM is just a volumetric flow rate, so you got the surface area and you know the airspeed. You're going to have fans in the correct order from best to worst and being able to say, hey, this is good for case airflow because high CFM, this is bad for case airflow because of low CFM. But that doesn't tell you the whole picture, because you can actually have a fan with a high CFM that is terrible as a case fan because it shoots air off to the side and is just able to overcome it enough in this particular test because of RPM or whatever data set. So you could basically get the right answer for the wrong reasons and mislead you, the customer, as a result, because you're not getting the whole picture, which is why that case simulation test I feel is so important. And as far as I can tell, I'm the only person doing a test like that. The only one who comes close is hardware hwcooling.net, and I really like what they're doing, and I want to add a test similar. I have my own take on it in the future. I've already designed my testing apparatus for it, but I can't pull the trigger until this channel grows a little bit and gets a little bit of funding, because everything costs money, and I would overhaul my whole testing suite. So anyways, we got RPM versus CFM. All the fans are just lined up in a row. It's what we expect because the air is just traveling down the tube. So all the fans look the same. Noise versus CFM, this is where things separate a little bit, and the Pro is still a little bit better than the Control Fan and a little bit better than the Toughfan14. So there's that. And when we compare noise normalized results, the Toughfan14 Pro is right at the top, but in this time it's in third position, and it's a little bit far away from the two top performers, the Storm T3 and the Mobius 140p, while being functionally equivalent to the Silentwings 4 Pro 140, with the Toughfan14 original being slightly behind. Cranking things up to 100% PWM fan signaling, and we once again see the Toughfan14 Pro now in third place, with the original Toughfan14 having the exact same airspeed, but functionally in fourth place because it's generating more noise. In the Silentwings 4 Pro 140, at around the same noise level, a little bit louder than the Pro while giving less airspeed. So, I mean, it's a very interesting result. The Toughfan14 Pro indicating that it's just overall doing really quite well. And then when we take a look at the noise data, so this is CFM versus noise, CFM vertical, noise horizontal. Again, it doesn't have the same sort of peaks as other fans where, you know, they go up and down at as RPM varies and that kind of thing, where they are better and worse. The Toughfan14 Pro is a very flat line, indicating they optimized it very well. I would need specialized software to even remotely analyze it properly in this type of scenario. But whatever they did, it's a great fan. Okay, so let's take a look at the fan in the box. So obviously I've already opened it up. This came as a 2-pack. That is the way that I do see it being sold on Amazon, which is where I purchased it. And this is their second iteration. I did do some reading. Again, I haven't tested. I would like to do longevity testing, but it currently is outside the scope of what this channel can do. Where the original Toughfan had some reliability issues of them dying early. So I hope that's solved with the Pro series, because its performance honestly looks utterly fantastic. But let's do a quick explore the box. We got some spec information on it. 12 volt, 0.36 amps. That's actually pretty high for one fan. 4.3 watts, one fan, 500 to 2000 RPM. It's got low noise mode. Maximum air pressure is 3.54 millimeters of H2. That's pretty good, actually. 119 CFM, 31.6 decibels. That's by their readings. And life expectancy 4 pin. And, well, that's it. And it comes with this box. And in the box, we got another box. And inside the box, we got a Y splitter for 4 pin and 2 low noise adapters, I guess. And we got some long screws and regular screws, one for each of the fans. All right, let's do the fan blade analysis that I'm famous for, I guess. So unfortunately, I don't currently have the Toughfan14 original to directly compare, but there were some subtle differences. And let's jump to the picture for that comparison. All right, so we're going to do a little bit of cross-comparing between the original Fantex Toughfan14 and the Toughfan14 Pro. So these are images online that are widely available because I didn't have the Toughfan14 original available to do the cross-examination. So we're going to just do this quick visual comparison. So the edge distances are really hard to see, so we're not going to focus in on that. But what we can see are the blade shape. The new one looks a little bit more curved and looks to be slightly wider at the tip with a little bit more of a blunted front edge to it. Also, the original one looks like that it hung the edge a little bit, so it kind of scooped in and could potentially cause extra noise depending on what's up against it, while the new one looks a little bit smoother. But we did see that when we're taking a closer look at it, that the blades are very close to the edge. The frame design is very different, and we're going to talk about that in a different section. The inner hub diameter looks basically identical. Let's go to the side view. So this really shows off that the new one really has a steeper blade angle, a sharper curve to it, which is why we got the performance values that we did. It's just a little bit better performing fan. Mind, both of them are very good performers in my analysis, but the new Pro is just better, and hopefully it has improved reliability. The struts behind it, they appear to be less. Let's jump to the next picture so we see the back. So the new one has 1, 2, 3, 4 struts. The original had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 struts. So that actually does help with noise to some extent, because every strut gives an opportunity for the blade to pass a strut to increase noise, basically. Now, Noctua is one of their F12 had extra struts in it that actually helped direct airflow. So in certain circumstances, there can be reason for it. But for the Fantech design, there really wasn't much of a reason for it. And once again, from the back, we can see how the new design really has a wider blade with less overlap, which gives it better performance in pressure. And the new steeper sweep angle is great for airflow applications. Ironically, from the back, they look like they overlap, or closer to overlap, more than from the front picture. What else can we say? Based on the frame design, the original one had just a squared off body. The new one spreads it out a little bit wider, so this allows for the air to spread out within the frame itself just a little bit more effectively. I do apologize that the Toughfan14 original is a little bit of a blurry picture. I just couldn't find a higher quality one than that, but it still gives good enough for showing off the blade shape. Both of them do feature the rubber pads and that kind of thing. What else do we want to say about it? Well, let's take a closer look at the fan itself again. So now that we've seen the subtle differences between the two fans, it's clear whatever they've changed about it has actually greatly improved this fan. This fan is phenomenal in testing. It is in the top 3 in the 140mm class in my air cooler. Top 3 as a case fan at any distance, basically, and in the top 3 for CFM. In terms of its value proposition, it's in the middle. So it's not a great value. It's not a terrible value. It is in the middle. So there's that. So I said so too many times. But let's go over the fan. We see that it has fairly thin blades, and they don't overlap at all. Actually, maybe almost overlap, but not quite. So it does generate a solid amount of air pressure. And the frame design is greatly improved from the previous version. That's something we couldn't really tell in the picture. The previous one had these little cutouts around the edges where air could actually seep out around it. This nice box frame will seal up nicely against another fan right next to it, so that all that air pressure will go straight through your radiator, heatsink, whatever you have these fans on. And I personally like the squared off design. I know it's not for everybody. Some people like the really round designs. But the frame really will do a great job in those pressure scenarios. And the back of it, we see that it's got this opening in the front, and that is purely aesthetic. It's functionally not really doing anything. As a matter of fact, Thermaltake could have added a little bit of intake curve to it. These blades get right up on the front edge. And we did or will hear, not sure where it's going to be placed in this video, that this fan does generate a lot of noise in a pull configuration. So buyer beware if you're going to put this fan in a pull configuration on your radiator or heatsink, that it may cause extra noise with regard to that. The tips have this little bit of blunt edge to it. And it actually isn't as rounded as it looks in the picture. So in real life, it's got a little bit there, but it's still pretty pointy. The blade design is overall, it's got a nice curvature to it. I don't know. It's very much looks similar to the previous. Basically, this blade design looks just very functional. Relatively unremarkable, but the distance to the edges is actually pretty darn tight, which is really nice. That's how it's generating that extra air pressure. That's something that if it had wider spacing between the frame and the fan, you just wouldn't be able to generate. So the closer you can get, the better it's going to generate air pressure. And the back of the frame, fairly basic. The struts have a little bit of curvature to them to help direct air. But overall, fairly unremarkable, which isn't really a bad thing by today's standards for high quality fans. But it looks pretty good and it performs very well. Let's jump to the next section. Value proposition. So this is a $50 2-pack. So each fan is around $25. If you're buying a single fan by itself, it's $35. I bought the double pack. Buying a single fan would destroy this fan's value proposition to basically be completely unrecommended. So this is where things get a little hard, right? Because let's say you need 3 fans. You need 3 fans. So would you buy 2 double packs, or would you buy a single fan and a double pack and hope that it just equates out? So this is where it's a little bit of a challenge. I bought a double pack, so I still have one fractal fan in the bottom of my computer case that didn't have any noise problems, meaning rattling. Like I said, I was so impressed by this fan that I'm actually now using it. So I can't make that decision for you on how to spend your money. I can only present the data. So value proposition is literally that. Performance per dollar. And the 14 Pro in the double pack, so $25 per fan, is pretty middle of the road at the 6-inch mark. And at 100%, it's still pretty middle of the road. So it's doing pretty well, but it's a far cry from the best value fans. At the 11-inch mark, it's gained some traction, where it's now in the upper part, but it's still not the best value overall. But it certainly is a pretty good pick. CFM Testing, it's much more middle of the roads here. Not much to write home about. You can see that it's pretty much just smack dab in the middle. And in CPU cooler testing, well, it's in the upper part, at least in 140 millimeter class fans. But overall, I'd call it kind of middle. So if you're getting a 140 millimeter class fan, specifically, it's pretty good overall. But once you compare it to also 120s, it's not that great. And at 100%, it's better. But they're just, again, 120s are a bit cheaper with better overall value. Now, I didn't mention this before. Value proposition isn't raw performance. So you need to look at the performance data earlier to determine which fan actually meets the performance of your needs. Value proposition is just performance per dollar. So if the fan is cheap enough, even has a really crappy airflow, it could rank really well in these graphs. And this also doesn't take into account extras that you may care about. So if you care about better noise performance, better extra airspeed performance, you need to look at the earlier data. If you care about the extra in terms of aesthetic, so that's a visual appearance of the fan and or RGB, then you need to make that determination for yourself. As for me, what I think of this fan, well, the fact that I'm sticking it in my computer and it's going to be in the bottom of my case, that should tell you a lot about it. Mind, I understand this price isn't for everybody. It's a little bit on the expensive side. Do have little concerns about them longevity, so I'll be reporting in on that and after periods of time, I guess. But it is potentially the best all-rounder 140 millimeter class fan pretty much ever. At time of filming this, I've already done my filming for best of the best fans, and if I were to refilm it right now, this fan would be among those. So I'll try to have this in rapid succession to that video, because holy moly, I'm impressed. I guess the only thing I can say with regard to that is I can't wait for Noctua's new 140 millimeter class fan to come out, because it is facing some steep competition. And as we wrap up this video, this is my raw data. This data does belong to me. It takes me around 1.5 to 2 hours to generate this data. You are welcome to use it for your own personal use. That means putting it into Excel and generating your own graphs and data charts and anything like that. If you're going to use it in sort of video, publication, written journal, I do ask that you reference me and my channel. After all, I'm the one that put in the effort to generate it. If you've got suggestions for me on how to improve my videos, please leave that in the comment section down below. I'm always trying to improve it to make it more enjoyable to watch, so that, I get that viewership up. If you got suggestions for more fans for me to take a look at, please leave that in the comments section down below. I do try to read through all my comments and answer any questions that you all have going on. And I do have a vision of where I'd like this channel to go. And currently I'm just a little trapped with my current channel size because of, well, financial. I need around, honestly, like $2,000 to get to the next, I think, milestone within what I like to do with this channel. It would still be fan testing specific, basically building a little noise chamber, better anemometer, better microphone for gathering noise data, stuff along those lines. And we'd see it grow. The next milestone would be being able to do case testing and heatsink testing. So if you like what I'm doing, you want to see this channel grow, joining me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube member really would go a long way. But regardless of funding or not, I'm going to keep making this type of video. It just means that I won't be able to expand it to cover everything. So anyways, thank you very much for watching my video. I do really appreciate it. And I hope to see you next time here on Computer Tech More. Have a great day.